Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a prototype copy of Cube Monster. It's an engine building game by Crazy Box. Now, you will take on the role of a champion racing up the top of Mount Kubia, and you will sacrifice cubes on your way up to the top. But you will also need to feed the monster to awaken its desire for offerings. You can do this wisely and reap the rewards, or watching your opponent suffer from its wrath. You can build structures, make an awesome cube generating combos, or you can use brute force to make it up to the top. So let's get to the mechanics of the game. Each round, a different player is the feeder, and the feeder will start and end each round. A round has a structure where the feeder draws cubes out of the cube bag and places them in the cube pit. And the feeder feeds the monster and, if needed, rolls the monster die to feed the monster. All players will then need to make an offering to the monster. Those who do get reward cards, and those who cannot suffer the effects of a disaster card. Players then take turns, starting with the player to the left of the feeder and continuing until the feeder takes the last turn. Player turns consist of taking a cube from the cube pit, using their structures, building new structures, and climbing up on the mountain. The round ends when the feeder places the last remaining cube on the round tracker, and if needed, they feed the monster again, which can possibly trigger an offering. The next player now becomes the feeder for the next round. The game ends if a player makes it to the top of the mountain, or after 16 rounds, whoever is the highest on the mountain wins. So let's redo all of this and go over the round with some more detail so you understand exactly what's going on in this game. When drawing cubes when you are the feeder, you will draw the number of cubes as players in the game plus 2, placing them in the cube pit. You then need to feed the monster as you are the feeder, and will choose one of the cubes from the cube pit and place it on the matching colored space on the monster board. If no cubes can be placed on this board, then you will restart the round by redrawing out cubes again. At the beginning of the game, it will take a while to fill up the board until it starts triggering feeding time. Again, the feeder adds one cube to the monster board in a slot that matches that cube's color. After feeding the monster, if a line, either a row, a column, or all slots diagonal, are completely filled with cubes, then all players need to make an offering to the monster by returning cubes back to the cube bag. If you can make an offering, then you must do it. Now, to determine how many cubes each player needs to offer, the feeder rolls the monster die. The monster die has 1 1, 3 2s, and 2 3s on its 6 faces, and each player will then need to offer that many cubes to the monster plus any amount indicated by the step that their champion is on. And you can also only offer your free cubes and not any cubes that are part of any of your structures. And your cube needs to be of different colors, unless you have shrines that change this rule a bit. Now, each player who makes an offering gets reward cards according to their statues, which I will explain later on. And if one or more players can't make an offering, then a disaster card is drawn and applied to all players who couldn't complete an offering. And each player individually can then choose which cube to give or which structure gets destroyed, shown on the card. After all players have made an offering or not, the cubes from the row, the column, or the diagonal are returned back into the bag. Now, players take their turn, starting with the player to the left of the feeder, and they will take a cube from the cube pit and place it on the free cubes area of their player board, possibly activating other structures that they've built. Then they can perform actions in any order as many times as they want, and at any time they can swap 3 free cubes of the same color for 1 cube of another color from the cube bag. As many times as you want, you can build unlocked structures on your village board using any of your free cubes. And once per turn, you can climb the mountain. Building will help you gain ways to gain more cubes, gain reward cards, or give you other abilities in the game. Factories are formed by taking 3 cubes of the same color and stacking them as you see here. Now, whenever you take a cube from the cube pit, if it matches a factory, you will gain an additional cube of the same color. And if you have 2 factories of the same color, you will gain 3 additional cubes when pulling the color from the cube pit. You can only make 2 of these per color, but they will help you gain more cubes of its color throughout the game, and the more cubes is always better in this game, although you can only have a maximum of 6 cubes saved in your free cube spot at a time at the end of your turn. Statues are built with 2 pairs of cubes of different colors, and you will form a checkered pattern like you see here, and you will place it on one of the open slots. You have 2 slots of each color that match the type of card that you will gain. Yellow gives you cube rewards, which will give you more cubes in the game. Building on a purple slot will give you upgrade cards, which will enhance your building's ability. And building on the turquoise slots will give you a trick card, which will give you random abilities but can be very powerful. Some cards are used immediately, while others can be kept to use at a specific part of the game to strategically help you in a situation. Upgrade cards will unlock into certain places on your board and give you even better abilities for those type of buildings. Statues will be triggered when you first build on them, and also each time you successfully feed the cube monster, you will also trigger them. You can only build 1 marketplace, which requires 1 of each color cube, and it will let you exchange 2 cubes of the same color for 1 cube of any other color. Normally, this is a 3 cubes for 1. Shrines can be built using 2 cubes of a color, and you can build 1 of each color of shrines, and when making an offering to the cube monster, you can offer up 2 cubes of your shrine's color. Normally, without shrines, you have to offer up different color cubes, so this lets you use the same colored cubes in your offerings. If you produce a lot of cubes of a certain color, it would be smart to build a shrine of that color. Lastly, the temple. You need 1 of each color to form the base, and then an additional cube of a color to form the top. Now, temples make it so that when you take a cube from the cube pit that matches the top color of your temple, you can take a random cube from the bag. This newly drawn cube can also trigger your factory, so give you even more cubes if you draw the right color. This is another way to build something to give you more cubes throughout the game because you always want more cubes. And again, if you don't want to build, you can climb up on the mountain, paying the shown cubes for that step. Now, at the beginning of the game, you are at the first step and you can only build factories and statues on your player board. And as you climb, you will unlock the additional buildings to build, so not all buildings are unlocked at the beginning of the game. When climbing the mountain, your champion is moved. You take any super cube card that you have accomplished at that time, and you now gain the shown super cube shown on the bottom of that card that can be used to replace a required cube of any color when later climbing up further on the mountain. In addition, you will gain the reward card shown on that space. So remember, as you climb, again, you will unlock different buildings that you can build. You will be able to claim super cube cards. And as you get higher, there are places where your offering will increase when you need to make an offering to the cube monster. After you're done performing your actions, you can only have 6 or less free cubes in your free cube area to continue on. After all players have performed their turn, there will be 1 cube left in the cube pit, which is placed on the next available slot on the round tracker. If that cube matches the color of that slot, and some slots count as all color, so watch out for those, the feeder takes a cube of their choice from the bag and feeds the monster, placing it on the monster board. Again, if a row, a column, or a diagonal is completed, an offering needs to be resolved, same as I explained before. If this cube is placed on the 16th slot, the game ends. If not, the bag is passed to the player to the left, who becomes the feeder for the next round. This will continue until a player makes it to the top, then that player wins. Or at the end of the 16th round, whoever is highest wins, with the tiebreaker of the player having the most super cubes. And, well, that's Cube Monster. It's a fun engine building game that's all about the cubes. You need cubes to build structures, to gain more cubes, or to exchange cubes. Cubes unlock abilities that give you rewards, and cubes are used to climb the cube mountain. The cubes are needed to feed the cube monster. Players will need to be prepared for when the cube monster needs an offering, because if you can't offer the cube monster cubes when it is triggered, then you will have to draw a disaster card, and you don't want the cube monster to be mad. So this game has a little progression that progresses as you go forward. At the beginning of the game, you'll be focused on building factories and statues, but slowly, as you climb up the mountain, which starts off fairly easy to do so, you will unlock other buildings that can really help you in your strategy. My favorite of those is having a temple and factories of the same color, as you can pick up lots of cubes of the same color with that combination. Then, if you have the marketplace on top of that, you can get whatever colors you want really easy. And with that type of combo, you will climb that mountain super fast while also having tons of cubes to feed the monster. I also really like the statues as they give you reward cards, not only when you first build it, but also as you give your offerings to the monster, you will be rewarded, and so this is something that will benefit you throughout the game, as you will need to feed the monster a bunch of times throughout the game, not just one time. Speaking of the cube monster, you want to try to control it as much as you can, and you can collect cards to trigger additional actions to stick other players to feed it when they are not ready to do so. And really, that's the main thing the monster does. You need to be ready to feed it. If not, then you will gain the penalty. And these penalties aren't game-ending penalties, but they can hurt you more than if you were just ready to feed it. The game has some strategic choices in the game, but then the draw from the bag can be random, so you can't bank on certain colors showing up. In addition, as you use certain color cubes to make your structures and as they are added to the round tracker, there will be less of that color available. So throughout the game, you built up a great engine to make lots of that color, but if there are none of that color in the bag, then you will not be able to run your engine. So remember that bit as well. Although that doesn't tend to slow down things too much, the game is pretty solid. Now, I really like the art in the game. These miniatures are awesome. I like the added presence that it gives on the table. The game has this simplicity to it, but it still gets me excited as you feel like you're progressing in the game each turn. There's strategy that you still need to implement, and you're keeping an eye out on the monster board, and you're secretly planning to get to the top of the mountain before anyone else. With only 6 steps to get to the top, you can plan so many different strategies to win in this game. It reminds me of those strategies in Splendor. You know, you can try to not build much and try to luck it out, drawing and getting cubes to just climb your way up as you can. There is a strategy of building buildings to have more cubes and climb up the mountain late but quickly. And then there's a strategy of not letting anyone get up the mountain at all and controlling the monster more than everyone else does.
Build for me, worship me, feed me.
All of these ways can win you the game, but not any one of them is a for sure better strategy. Ultimately, climb, gain, build, and offer up cubes with your family and friends in Cube Monster by Crazy Box. Again, this is Boardgame Brody, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.